Well, hi again. Welcome to Chess Base Workshop. My name is Steve Lopez. Thanks for clicking that link, joining us for this presentation. We've been looking over several videos at the new Let's Check features of the Fritz13 software, and we're going to look at another one today. Last time around in the previous video, we looked at how to go out onto the Let's Check server and pull up any existing analysis of a game. In other words, if someone has already analyzed a classic game in the past, you can pull up that analysis. If someone has analyzed a couple of positions that occur in a game, it'll pull that up. So you can go in there and retrieve existing analysis. But let's say you have a game that no one's analyzed previously. What do you do then? Well, you can analyze it and contribute your analysis to the Let's Check server if you're a Fritz13 user. And we're going to look at how to do that here. I've got a game, by the way, I've got an engine loaded. It's an amateur engine I picked up off the internet. It's a dual processor engine I just want to try out. So I'm going to play around with this new engine for this. And I've loaded a game from the past, from 1925, with Aliekin playing Znasko-Borovsky. Now, I'm a big fan of Eugene Znasko-Borovsky. He's one of my favorite chess authors. If you have not read his book on the middle game, I highly recommend it. I read it many years ago, and it helped me a great deal. And it was also fairly entertaining and revelatory in a variety of ways. He loses this game to Aliekin, but there's no real shame in that. You know, a lot of people lost games to Aliekin. But I wanted to analyze this particular game and have the go out onto the server, see if there's any existing analysis. I checked that first. There wasn't any. So I thought, well, let's go ahead. I mean, there were a couple of moves that got analyzed, but the game was not done. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and do it. Let me go ahead and analyze this game on the Let's Check server. I'll analyze the game. I'll upload my moves to that server when it's done. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to demonstrate here is how to do that. So we're going to analyze this game and put our stuff up on the server. But there's another couple little tricks to it I want to show you. First of all, normally when you go on to Let's Check and you just want to win some, or you want to discover some positions rather, you click the engine menu. But to analyze complete games, you want to go to the analysis menu as we see here. There's a big button highlighted in gold here. It says Let's Check Analysis. And when you mouse over it, it says Analyze the full game with variations from Let's Check. That's exactly what we're going to do. So when you click on that gold button, well, it'll be gold once you roll your mouse over it, you'll get this. And I've already set some options on this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in just on the Let's Check Analysis dialog so we're not distracted by everything else on the screen. So don't panic when everything goes black here for just a second. There we go. Here's your Let's Check Analysis dialog. Here's where you can set various tweaks to Let's Check Analysis. Last time around we looked at what happens when you check retrieval only. You'll recall that it doesn't matter what engine you have loaded, time settings don't matter because your engine doesn't play into it at all. It just goes out onto the server and pulls up anything that's already there. This time around, though, we're going to actually analyze the game. We have a couple different ways to do it. One of them is standard analysis, just exactly the way that you normally would do it, where you just click standard analysis, set your time settings, let her rip, and your analysis goes up on the server. But there's a third setting here called win variations. What that will do is basically this. You set your time settings, and your engine will analyze until either your maximum time that you've set is reached or until your engine is analyzed deeply enough to win a position, to win the variation. What does that mean? If it is a position that someone else has already analyzed, if your engine analyzes that same position to a much greater depth, now I can't give you exact numbers because I don't have them, I don't know. But if your engine analyzes to a greater depth than the previous analyst's engine had done, you win that position, you win that variation, and you score some points toward the rankings on the Let's Check server, which is a cool thing. So what this will do is either analyze until your maximum time is reached or analyze until you've won the variation, whichever comes first. So if you set a maximum, it may not analyze that long. If someone has not already analyzed that position, you won't get anywhere near that maximum time. Whereas if someone else has already analyzed it, it'll run a little bit longer. So there you go. So win variations is what we're going to check with the radio button. We have to set some times. with this particular, I have a dual core machine, multiprocessor engine with a dual core machine. Takes about 7 minutes roughly to get a deep enough analysis for that analysis to be saved on the Let's Check server. So that's why I set the minimum time for 7.5 minutes. At the very minimum, I want my analysis to be saved. If I don't discover a position or win a variation or whatever, I still want that analysis to be deep enough to at least appear on the server. So I've set 7.5 minutes for my minimum time. My maximum time, I've set it for 15 minutes. Because typically it takes about, give or take, between 10 and 12 minutes to discover a position if it's not been analyzed before. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, this is a time-consuming process. I mean, I've got a game, if we back up a couple shots here, there's 48 positions in this game. Now, let's assume, just for the argument, that the first 10 positions are book. That still leaves 38 positions in this game that need to be analyzed. You figure about, let's average it out, 10 minutes a move of analysis. That's 380 minutes. You do the math. It's going to take over 6 hours to analyze this game. Okay? So this is the kind of analysis that you want to do overnight. You don't want to be doing this while you're using your computer for other tasks, because doing other stuff takes cycles away from the processor. You may have two different things fighting over RAM, because generally you want to set your hash tables as high as you possibly can. You know, this is something you're going to run overnight while you sleep. Maybe you run it if you go off to work. Maybe you run it at that time. Whatever. It depends on when and how you use your computer. You know, if you're the kind of guy that or gal that you don't use your computer, you mainly use it in the evening, check up with your friends on Facebook, answer some emails, that type of thing, surf the web a little bit. Let this run before you go to bed. Set it up, let it run while you're sleeping. If you get up the next morning and it's still not done, no big deal. Let it run. You go to work, you come back, it'll be done. Okay? But honestly speaking, 7.5 minutes for a minimum and 15 for a maximum is probably still a little bit low. This does take some time. Okay? That's why I'm not even going to show you this thing running in this video. It's going to take some time to run. Play around with it, find the settings that work for you, as always, because every machine is different. I mean, there's, people say, why don't you have a chart of the best analysis times for every computer on the market? I just laugh, man. I mean, you walk into Best Buy or wherever now, and there's shelves. I mean, just dozens of these things on the shelves. You can't possibly test it all. So you need to figure it out for your computer, what works best for you. There are a couple other tweaks down here at the bottom we've looked at before. Include text commentary. We haven't covered this yet. We're going to look at it later, but you can manually write your own text comments to positions that are in the Let's Check opening book and on the Let's Check server. So you can do that. If someone has written text comments, I'd certainly like to see them, so I will check that blank. And if someone has analyzed some of these positions previously, does happen this game, as a matter of fact, I went ahead and looked, somebody had already analyzed a couple of the positions. I want to see who did it. I want to see the engine name. I want to see the username. So I've got usernames checked as well. Once you've got everything set up, you're happy with your settings, as always, click OK, let it rock. Go away, let it work, and you're going to go away for a while. As I said, this will take hours. This is not a little short process. It's going to take a long time. Go away overnight, possibly even part of the next day, depending how high you set your maximal time settings. And when you come back, when it's done, you're going to have some analysis. By the way, you will see it work. You'll see it in operation. It works just like when you do a blunder check analysis or full analysis in Fritz. You'll see it. It'll start at the end of the game, start working its way backwards like it always does. That you're very familiar with seeing that. So you can watch it work. I don't know why you would, because at these time settings, it's like watching paint dry, but you can do it if you want to. But just go away, come back at some future time, hours later, you're going to have analysis. And that's what we're going to look at next. I already ran this once. We're going to look at what the analysis looked like when the process was finished after I ran this overnight. Then after we come back hours later, Not kidding around. Hours later, we come back, and here's what we have. We have analysis of this game provided by me and by another user, actually a couple of other users. Now, what are we looking at here? First of all, let's look at the analysis of a particular move. Let's look at 9, D takes E6. According to the engines that have analyzed it, and it's been analyzed by multiple engines, so unfortunately we don't know what engine came up with the actual analysis of what was really played. But if you look at 9, D takes E6, some engine somewhere along the line has analyzed this as being 41/100ths of a pawn, 2/5 of a pawn, give or take, in white's favor. As always, remember that a positive analysis number, a positive number here, means that white has the advantage. A negative number means the advantage belongs to black. We have two separate pieces of analysis here. Someone named Ralph, with a bunch of letters and numbers after his name, used the free version of Houdini and came up with the same move, D takes E6. Houdini says, yeah, D takes E6 is the move here, whereas the engine that I used, Glaurung, says that 9A3 is the move here. And of course, they're going to analyze differently anyway. Glaurung says that if white had played 9A3 and this sequence of moves had been followed, and if you take a look at this game, basically the knight goes back to E1 to reposition, white would have been ahead by half a pawn. Houdini says that had white played D takes E6, would have been ahead by about 1/4 of a pawn. So we can just go down and look. What we get is we get analysis of what was actually played. We get a little short 3-move variation, 3-ply variation by a particular engine. We have the engine's analysis, once again, down to 1/100th of a pawn, positive number meaning a white advantage, negative number meaning an advantage to black. The number after the slash is always the depth. How deeply did it search? How many plies deep did it go? The engine I used, and by the way, the server does not identify Glaurung the way it identifies other engines. Okay, that's why it says new engine here. That's part of the reason why I wanted to use an amateur engine to show you that it will say new engine if it does not correctly identify it. Sometimes you'll pull an engine off the internet that's a freebie that somebody gives away, and the server will identify it by name. If it doesn't, if it can't figure out what the name of it is for whatever reason, it says new engine. Then there's the slash, and in my name, that's my username on the Playchess server, Armstead. And then we see the other previous analysis that another user did with Houdini. Here's one that Rob Y did with Fritz13. Rob Y did another one with that Houdini freebie. And what we can discern from this, by the way, because we've got two different users and two different engines, and one user has used two different engines here, is that these were positions that were individually analyzed. This game was not analyzed by an engine before in its entirety. We can check this by scrolling down, and we find as we get deeper into the game that I'm the only guy that's analyzed this whole game from back to front. So again, we see the analysis. We see this is where the position, with the evaluation of the position that was actually occurred in the game, followed by what this engine thinks should have been played with the evaluation if these 3 moves have been played. Very simple. What I find really interesting about this, though, if we can back up to the top, is we get an engine game correlation. And all that is how often is there a matchup, a correlation between what the player in the game actually played and what an engine thinks was the best move. It's interesting to go down through the game and see the differences. For example, in this game, engines agree with Aliekin 27% of the time. They agree with Znasko-Borowski 33% of the time. What's interesting about that, though, is that Znasko-Borowski ended up losing this game, but engines agree with more of his moves than Aliekin's moves. Now, why is that? Well, engines aren't perfect. Using an engine is just an opinion. Plus, you don't know what kind of time settings were used either. So it's interesting to go through the game and look at the differences. Look at where the engine said X and the player played Y, and you can look at what the differences are in the different evaluation. The cool thing about these, by the way, these are replayable variations. This isn't just text. You can go down through the game and actually play through these little short variations to see the position. So we have an engine game correlation up here at the top. Like I said, 27, about a quarter of the time, the engines agreed with Aliekin. About a third of the time they agreed with Znovsko-Borovsky. Notice here also that despite the fact that I set my time setting for about 15 minutes, notice in this case I did not win this position. I did not win this variation. My engine only went 20 plies deep. Previous user had gone 22 plies deep. In the other cases, they were tied. So I didn't win these. So that tells me that I need to actually set the maximum time higher than 15 minutes in order to win a variation. That just bears up what I was saying before. This is a time-consuming process. But the cool part is you can score points toward the standings on the Let's Check server by analyzing complete games, contributing your analysis to the worldwide user group, everybody who's using Fritz13 to analyze games. All of my analysis in this game now can be accessed by other users. If someone goes in and goes to analyze this game, if they do a retrieval, they're going to pull up all of my existing analysis. It's also an interesting thing to do because you can see what a previous user has done. It kind of gives you an idea of how high you have to set your time settings to possibly win these variations and score bonus points toward the standings on the Let's Check server. But to reiterate, this is a time-consuming process. So what I like to do is when I go to Let's Check analysis, I generally do retrieval first. I check that first because that just takes a few seconds. As we saw in the last video, we did a retrieval. It took about 22 seconds, and that was actually a little bit long because if a game has no analysis in it, it'll generally blow through it in about 10 to 15 seconds, and you'll see that no one has analyzed that game previously, so you know you can go in there and basically win a whole bunch of positions, discover a whole bunch of positions yourself. So I always check for retrieval first, by using retrieval first, just to see what other people have done before I go in and analyze a complete game using these settings. The other thing to bear in mind is that if you want to preserve this analysis on your hard drive, in your database, yourself, you're going to need to go to the File menu and do Replace Game. Use the Replace function. Otherwise, when you load another game, all of this analysis disappears. Now, you can go back and do a retrieval on the Let's Check server and pull it all back up. But if you'd like to save it locally to save yourself a step, be sure to do a Replace Game, as I did. That's where this came from. I had this stored into my database from when I ran this analysis once before. So that's how you do the win variations type of analysis in Let's Check. There's other things you can do with Let's Check, of course, that we've just hit the tip of the iceberg here. There's many other features. We're going to look at those in future videos. Until then, for Chess-Based Workshop, I'm Steve Lopez, reminding you to please, please, please do have fun.